Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet this really sweet vest which can be made in any size from baby to adult. So for this vest here I used this Drops yarn, but in the tutorial I used Drops Lima yarn as it is much easier to demonstrate with. So if you want a fluffy vest like this, then make sure that you use a fluffy yarn. And for my vest I used a 5mm crochet hook. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. So to begin our vest, we're going to start off by working the back first. So to start the back, you want to begin by doing a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, take your yarn and take your finger and wrap the yarn around your finger once and then twice. Then take the first loop and pull it over the second loop, and then take the second loop and pull it all the way over your finger. You then want to take your crochet hook and go in through this space and pull tight. And there you have a slip knot. So once you have your slip knot, you now want to make your foundation chain. And the length of your foundation chain will determine the width of your vest. So you can make your foundation chain as long or as short as you like, but the longer you make it, the wider the back of your vest will be. So if you're not sure how long to make your chain, you can take a t-shirt or a sweater in the size that you want your vest to be and make a chain up to the width of that piece of clothing. So just make your foundation chain until it is the right length for the width of your vest. And your foundation chain must also be an odd number. So you can chain any number as long as it is an odd number. So you could chain 75, 69, 33, whatever you like as long as it is an odd number. So just make your foundation chain. So I have just finished making my foundation chain, and I am making my vest for a little baby, so I didn't have to chain very much to get the right width. But if you were doing this for an adult or a teenager, then your foundation chain will probably be a lot longer. So once you have your chain, which should be an odd number, we are ready to move on to round one of the back of our vest. So we are now on to round one of the back, and round one is a simple round of double crochet. We're just going to do one double crochet into every single chain along our foundation chain. And we're going to work our first double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So here is the first chain from the hook, and here is the second chain from the hook, and into this chain we're going to work our first double crochet. So to do a double crochet, you want to yarn over and go into the chain, the second chain from the hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the final 2 loops on your hook. So there I have one double crochet, and now we're going to yarn over and go into the next chain and work one double crochet into this chain, then work one double crochet into the next chain and one into the next, and just continue to do this all the way along your chain for round one. One double crochet into every single chain. And if you're using kind of fluffy yarn like I did here for this vest, round one can sometimes be a little bit tricky as it is difficult to see where your chains are. So if you are using yarn like this, just go really slowly and take it one stitch at a time. And round one is always the worst round, and the rest of the rounds are a lot easier with this yarn. So just take it slowly. And it also helps if you count your stitches. So in round one, you should have one less double crochet than you chained. So for example, if you chained 39, you should have 38 double crochets in round one. And if you chained 77, you should have 76. If you chained 75, you should have 74, and so on. So it helps if you count your double crochets as you go, and then you know that you have worked the right number. So if you're using yarn like this, just take it a stitch at a time and count your stitches as you go to make sure that you haven't missed any of the chains. So just work double crochets all the way across for round one. So I have just finished working my double crochets across for round 1, and like I said, at the end of this round you should have one less double crochet than you chained, and that does not include our chain 1 that we skipped at the beginning of the round when we worked into the second chain from the hook. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so you should have one less double crochet across than you chained. And if you do, we are ready to move on to round 2 of the back. So we are now on to round 2, and to begin this round you want to chain 1 and turn, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. This is our turning chain. So now round 2 is again a very simple round. We're just going to do one double crochet into every single stitch across. So one double crochet into each stitch. So we're going to work our first double crochet into this stitch here, as our chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So yarn over and go into the very first stitch and work one double crochet. Then work one double crochet into the next stitch and one into the next one. And do this all the way along. One double crochet into every single chain or into every single stitch for round 2 of the back of your vest. So I'm just coming to the end of round 2, and I just wanted to show you that at the very end of the round, it's really important that you don't go into the chain 1. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Just go into this last double crochet here, which is the first double crochet from round 1. And there we have finished round 2, and at the end of this round you should have the same number of stitches across in round 1. And we are ready to move on to round 3. So we are now on to round 3 of the back of our vest, and this next part of our vest is very easy. You simply want to repeat round 2, so the round that we just did, again and again and again, until your work reaches the armholes of your vest, so where you want the armholes to be. So you just want to keep repeating round 2 again and again and again until your work reaches the armholes. So if you have a piece of clothing, so a t-shirt or a sweater which you are going off of, then just keep crocheting, keep working round 2 until it reaches the arms of that piece of clothing. Or if you are making this vest for yourself, just keep working it until it is the length that you want it and it reaches your arms. So keep working until your work reaches here. So reaches where the arms or the armholes begin. And once you have done that, you will have this section of the back of your vest. So I'm going to begin my first repetition of round 2. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn and work one double crochet into this first stitch here, and then work one double crochet into the next stitch and one double crochet into the next stitch. And just keep doing this all the way along, and in every single round you should have the same number of stitches, and that should be one less than you chained. So you should have the same number in every single round. And once I have come to the end, I will chain 1 and turn and do one double crochet into each stitch across, then chain 1 and turn and do one double crochet back into each stitch across, and just keep repeating that again and again and again until you have your work to the length that you want it to be. So keep repeating round 2. So I have finished working my rounds, and I now have my work to the length that I want it. So this is where the armholes of my vest will begin. and I'm just doing my vest for a little baby, so I didn't have to work very many rounds. But if you were doing this in an adult size or something a lot bigger, then you will probably have a lot more rounds to work. So I just had to do a few little rounds. So now once you have done that, we are going to begin cutting in for the armholes, and I will show you how to do that now. So to begin this round, you want to turn your work. Do not chain one and turn, simply turn your work. And now we are going to work 4 slip stitches. So 1 slip stitch into each of the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So insert your hook into this first stitch here and yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So there we have our first slip stitch. Now insert your hook into the second stitch along and work a slip stitch into this next stitch, then into the third stitch along, and finally one last slip stitch. So I have 4 slip stitches in total. So like that, so I have worked 4 slip stitches, and there we have cut in for the armhole. So this is going to form part of the armhole. So now you want to chain 1. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work double crochets all the way along our row until we get to 4 stitches from the end. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches from the end. So I'm going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across all the way along until I reach here. So until I have just 4 stitches left at the end. And that does not include the chain 1. You want 4 double crochets to be left at the end. So I have chained 1, and this does not count as a stitch. This is just the turning chain for our round. So kind of like the chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to yarn over and go into this next stitch here. So count 1, 2, 3 and 4 from the edge. This is the last one that we worked a slip stitch into. So we need to go into the next one and work 1 double crochet into this stitch, and now do 1 double crochet into the next stitch and 1 into the next and 1 into the next one, and do this all the way along until you are 4 from the end. So I have just worked that all the way along, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets left. And there we have round 1 of cutting in for the armholes, and we're ready to move on to round 2. So just leave your work there with the 4 stitches not worked into at the end. So we are now on to round 2, and to begin this round, chain 1 and turn. And again, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So now we're just going to do 1 double crochet into each of these stitches across. So go all the way across and stop at the last double crochet that you worked. Do not go into the chain 1 or any of the slip stitches. This is the slip stitches are part of the armhole, and the chain 1 did not count as a stitch. So work 1 double crochet into each of the double crochets from last round. So yarn over and go down into the first stitch and work 1 double crochet. Then work 1 double crochet into the next stitch and the next one, and do this all the way along until you reach your last double crochet. So I have worked that all the way along, and I haven't gone into any of my slip stitches, and I haven't gone into the chain 1. And if you want, you can count your stitches and make sure that you have the same number as you did all the way along here, minus 8. So say you had 38 double crochets in each of these rounds, you should have 30 in this one. So you had 48, you should have 40, and so on. So 8 less. And there we have round 2 of the top completed. So after cutting in for the armholes, and we're ready to move on to round 3. So we are now on to round 3 of this part of the back of our vest. And the next few rounds are very simple. You just want to repeat round 2, so the round that we just did, until your work reaches the very top. So until it reaches the base of the neck. So if you have a t-shirt or a sweater which you were going off of, just work until your work reaches the very top here, so where the neckline starts. Or if you were doing this for yourself, just keep working until it reaches the back of your neck. Or if you're doing it for somebody else, just keep working until it reaches the base of their neck. So keep repeating round 2, the round which we just did, until your work is long enough. And if you were doing this for a baby or a child, again you will have less rounds to do than if you were doing this for an adult. So to begin each round, chain 1 and turn. And we're just going to work 1 double crochet into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 into the next, and do this all the way along, 1 double crochet into each stitch. And when you get to the end, make sure that you don't go into the chain 1, that you go into the very last double crochet. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn and do 1 double crochet into each stitch along. So repeat that round again, and then repeat it again and again and again, and you should have the same number of stitches in every single round, and that is what you had down here, -8, and keep repeating that until your work is the right size. So in each round you do, just make sure that when you come to the end of the round that you are going into the last double crochet here, and that you don't go into the chain 1, as the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So I just quickly wanted to show you that to make sure that you were doing it right. So I have finished repeating that round again and again for the back of my vest, and I just wanted to show you, here is my other vest which I have done, which is in a much bigger size, and you can see this is the back completed. We have the width, which is determined by the foundation chain. You then work up until the armholes, then you cut in and work up until the base of the neck. So there we have completed the back of our vest. So you can now fasten off, so pull your yarn out and your hook and cut your yarn, and you need to make sure that you are leaving a long tail, so kind of like this, so that you can weave that into the inside of your vest later. And I actually like to leave a long tail and weave it in at the very end once my front is attached, as I may need to use that tail to attach my front and back together. So I would leave a long tail and then leave it like that until you have sewn your 2 pieces together, and then weave your ends in at the very end when you know that you don't need them. So now we are ready to move on to the front of our vest. So we are now on to the front of our vest, and the front of our vest is made in 2 sections, and I'm going to show you how to make the first section. So to begin this first section of the front, you want to work a slip knot. So work a slip knot in the exact same way as we did for the back of our vest. Work a slip knot, and we are now going to work our foundation chain. And the length of your foundation chain is going to be determined by how much you chained for the back. So what you want to do is you want to take the number that you chained for the back. So you may have chained 39 or 47, you chained an odd number, and you want to add 1 to that number. So say if you chained 39, add 1 to make 40, and then divide that number by 2. So I would then divide 40 by 2 to get 20, and that is what I would need to chain. I would need to chain 20. So for example, if you chained 83, you would need to add 1 to make 84, and then divide that by 2 to make 42. And you would chain 42 for the first half of the front of your vest. So again, if you chained 99, you would add 1 to make 100, divide it by 2 to make 50, and you would need to chain 50. So make your foundation chain, and the length of your chain will be determined by the length that you chained at the beginning for the back. So I have finished working my foundation chain, and now we're ready to move on to round 1 of the first half of the front. It's very simple. We're just going to do 1 double crochet into each chain along, and we're going to work our first double crochet into the second chain from the hook here. So go into the second chain from the hook and work your first double crochet, and then do 1 double crochet into every single chain along, so 1 into each chain. And again, if you were using the fluffy yarn, round 1 is always a bit tricky, but just take it slowly and count your stitches. And as with the back, you should have 1 less stitch across than you chained. So if you chained 20, you should have 19 double crochets across. If you chained 40, you should have 39, and so on. So you can count your stitches to make sure that you're not missing any chains. So work 1 double crochet into each chain along your foundation chain. So we are now on to round 2 of the first half of the front of our vest. And the next part of the front is very simple. You just want to work rounds of double crochet, so chain 1 and turn, and work 1 double crochet into each stitch across until you reach where you cut in for the armholes of the back. So here I have my back here, and this is the first half of the front. So I'm just going to work rounds of double crochet until I reach here, which is where I cut in for the armholes on the back. So I'm actually going to count my rounds to make it a little bit easier. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 rounds in total until I cut in. So I'm just going to work 11 more rounds of double crochet, so chain 1 and turn, and work 1 double crochet into each stitch across, and then I will have a strip which goes up like this, and then I can begin cutting in for the armholes for the front. So you want to begin your first round, so chain 1 and turn, and work 1 double crochet into each stitch across. And then when you get to the end of this round, we will chain 1 and turn and work 1 double crochet into each stitch across again, and do that again and again and again until you have the same number up to here as the back, or until it reaches the same point. So keep repeating those rounds. So I have just finished working those rounds, so I counted and I had 12 rounds to work, so I worked those 12 rounds, and now this half of my front piece lines up perfectly like that. So now we're going to begin our first round of cutting in for the armholes. So to begin this round, you want to chain 1 and turn. And now we're just going to work double crochets all the way across until you get to 4 stitches from the end. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to work double crochets all the way across, but stop here when I get 4 from the end. So yarn over and go down into the first stitch and work 1 double crochet. Then work a double crochet into the next stitch. Work 1 double crochet into the next one. And do this all the way along until you have 4 double crochets left. So that doesn't include the chain 1, that is 4 double crochets. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 left to work into, and I'm going to leave them unworked as this is going to form the part of my armhole. So I'm going to leave this like that and move on to round 2 of this section. So to begin round 2, chain 1 and turn, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and you just want to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across until you get to the end. So just work double crochets all the way across. So like that. So I have worked double crochets all the way across for round 2. And now for the next part of our vest, or the first half of the front of our vest, you just want to repeat that round 2, until you get a couple of stitches from the top, and that is when we're going to do our strap. So just keep repeating that round 2 again and again, so double crochets across this small section until you're about 2, 3 or 4 rounds from the top of your vest. So if you take the back, This is the top. You established where the top was going to be with the back. So just keep repeating those rounds until you are about 2, 3 or 4 rounds from the top. And then in those 3 rounds or those 4 rounds or 2 rounds that you miss, we will work the straps. So if you are doing this vest for a baby or a child, you may want to leave it just 2 rounds from the top. If you're doing this for a teenager or an older child, I would say to leave 3 rounds, or if you are doing this for an adult, you may want to leave 4 rounds. Also, if you want the neckline to be higher, then work more rounds than if you want it to be lower, work less rounds. So keep repeating these rounds, and I'm actually doing a mini little vest here, so with just 2 rounds I have reached 2 rounds from the top, so I don't need to do any more repetitions, but you will most likely have to do maybe 1, 2, 3 or maybe even 4 repetitions of that round 2 to get to where you want your straps to be. So keep repeating that round 2 double crochets across this section here until you get to where your straps want to be, and you can see where the top is on the back. So once you have got this section to the length that you want it to be, what you now want to do is you want to fasten off, so pull your yarn out and your hook and cut your yarn, but again make sure that you leave a long tail as you will need to weave this in later, and you may also want to use it to help attach all your sections together. And now we're going to create the straps, which are going to go here for our vest. So the straps. And if you finished off on this side here, so you finished off your round over this side where you cut in, then you will not need to fasten off, just leave it attached and work your straps. But as I'm finishing off over here, then I need to fasten off as the straps go on the outer edge. So what we're going to do now is we're going to insert our hook into this very end stitch. So go right into the very corner and take your yarn, place your yarn over the end of your crochet hook, pull it through, so place it over the end of your hook. I just dropped mine, so I'm going to place it over the end of my crochet hook and pull it through, and then chain 1 to secure it. And there you have attached your new yarn, and like I said, if you finished off over this side, then you can skip that step as you already have your yarn there and ready to use. And now you need to decide how wide you want your straps to be. So as I'm just doing mine for a baby, I'm just going to do 3 stitches wide for my strap. But if you're doing this in a bigger size, then you may want to do your straps 4 or 5 or 6 stitches wide. But just yarn over and go down into the stitch, the very first stitch, and work your first double crochet, and then work double crochets across for however long you want your strap to be, or however wide, sorry. So I'm just going to do 3 stitches, and actually I might go ahead and do a 4th. So I'm going to do my straps 4 stitches wide. And then what you need to do is chain 1 and turn and work double crochets back along those stitches, making sure that you are doing the same number in every single round. So this may be 2, 3, 4, 5, it's up to you. And go right to the end, making sure that you're not going into the chain 1, but that you're going into the double crochet. And if you didn't have to attach your new yarn, then for round 1 you chain 1 and turn and work double crochets across, and then just keep repeating the chain 1 and turn rounds. And then you just want to keep repeating that round, so the round that we just did with chain 1 and turn and working across, until your work reaches the very top of the back. So I actually only had a few rounds to do, so I have 1 more round to do. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn and work 1 double crochet into each of these 4 stitches across. So now my back and this front half piece are the complete exact same length. So now you can fasten off, so pull your yarn out and your hook and cut your yarn, leaving a tail to weave in later. And we have completed the first half of the front of our vest. So you work double crochets up, cut in, work a few rounds until you get to where you want your straps to be. Then you decide how wide you want your straps to be, fasten some new yarn in the corner and work across, or if you finish on this edge, just work across for that number of stitches, then work those little rounds up until you reach the top and it's the exact same length as the back. So there we have our back and the first half of our front. And what you need to do now is work another front piece in the exact same way as we just did this one. So in the exact same way, you chain the exact same length, work the exact same number of rows up, cut in the same way, work up, make sure that the straps are the same width and the same length. And then when you have your two pieces, you will have one like this, and then you will have one flipped over the other side, and then it fits perfectly into this side and it's cut in on this side. So you work the two front sections in the exact same way, and then you will have a back and two fronts, and I will show you how to sew them together. So once you have all of your pieces, we are going to sew them together, and we're going to sew our vest together along the sides and then along the tops along the strap. So the top of the back and the straps, and then down the sides. And to sew them together, we are going to use the whip stitch. So you want to take a yarn needle and some yarn in the same colour, and if you have left a long enough end when you fastened off, then you may be able to use these, but I haven't, so I've had to take another long piece of yarn. And if you are using your ends, just thread your needle with the end, and you want to go into the very corner and insert your needle through this, and then go into the exact same stitch on the opposite side and pull your yarn through. So like that, and if you want, you can make a little knot to make sure that it doesn't go all the way through. And with the whip stitch, you always go through the same side. So we have gone through and up, and now we're going to come back around through to the exact same side that we went through in the first place, and go into the next stitch and the same stitch on the opposite side, and then pull our yarn and needle through again, and then we're going to come back around to the same side again. We are always going through this side and go through both stitches on both sides and pull your yarn through, and continue to do this all the way along. Always go through the same side here, through, and then pull your yarn through. So always through the same side, and continue to do this all the way along until your side is sewn up. So make sure that you're going all the way along here up to the top nice and tight, and then along the very top of our vest, just sew along the strap and the back. And there we would have completed our vest. So I finished sewing up my vest along this side, this side, this side and this side using the whip stitch. And then I went ahead and weaved all of my ends into the inside of my vest. So make sure that you weave them nice and securely into the inside. And I then decided to make a single crochet border all the way around the edge. So this is completely optional, but what I did was I used a different type of yarn, so not a fluffy type, a different type, and I went all the way around, one single crochet into every single stitch. So I attached my yarn onto the bottom at the back, went all the way around, up, all the way around the top, back down and around, and then in the four corners, so here, here, here and here, you want to work 4 single crochets into the corner stitch. So do 4 single crochets all into each of those corners, and that will give you a nice right angle. I then did a border around each of the armholes, and I decided to add a ribbon in the middle. So I attached a ribbon on either side, and then I just tied it in a nice bow. But you don't have to put anything there, or you could just use a button or two. And I have finished. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it easy to follow. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos, and thanks again for watching. Bye!